Welcome to the Real and Real Estate Podcast, your go-to show for real estate success. Whether you're an agent aiming to crush it or a buyer or seller wanting the inside scoop, we're here to deliver expert advice, insider tips, and the real talk you need. Each episode, we chat with top industry pros to give you the facts, strategies, and inspiration you need to thrive in this business. Let's dive in and make big moves together. Hi, welcome back to the Real and Real Estate. And today our expert is Mike Russell, and he's going to talk about a subject we've not talked about before, and that's foreclosures. Mike has a history of helping people manage and avoid foreclosures, and he's going to tell us his story. So, Mike, welcome. You started a program called Hope for Hardship. Is that correct?
That's right. Yep. We started a nonprofit.
Great. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your nonprofit, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, sure. So thank you for having me. I've been in the real estate business my whole life, really, since I was 19 years old. It's kind of the only real job I ever had. And I ran the gamut of experience in this business, and a lot of it was painful and tumultuous. And it involved my own personal experiences with being foreclosed on and filing corporate bankruptcy and personal bankruptcy. And, I made a lot of the wrong choices that led up to that, obviously. But then I also, once I was in a problem, I continued to make bad choices. And I don't think that I needed to file bankruptcy. I certainly didn't need to be foreclosed on. I could have taken some steps, some proactive steps to avoid that. But it would be a decade or so before I figured that out. And so it was very real to me, the whole experience of what people go through when they're facing financial crisis. And, I created collateral damage in my family that took me the better part of a decade to remedy. And so that's really where so it's kind of a combination of things, right? I have so much useless information in my head about real estate, doing this for 30 years, that I really don't have anything great to do with it. To be honest with you, it's useless information to most people, but it creates a unique cocktail of someone who has a very personal and deep experience of facing these emotional and financial struggles when you face foreclosure, and a whole bunch of useless real estate information. And so I guess those two things just combined to create this nonprofit in an effort to help people avoid foreclosure who are facing a financial crisis, through the litany of different ways that it's possible to do that. And that's really the work that we do is at this stage of the game. Really never in my experience, in my lifetime, has home affordability been lower than it is today. The affordability index is something ridiculous, like 48. So 48% of American households can afford the average home today, and that's a sad state of affairs. And so many of the people that we end up working with are sitting in what most fail to recognize is perhaps one of the most valuable things in America today when it comes to housing. They are sitting in a fixed rate, low interest, long-term mortgage that I believe they should do everything in their power to protect, because the cost of replacement housing is absolutely out of this world. And so that's the work we do, is we try to help people keep their existing fantastic mortgage terms in place, and get back in the good graces with the bank.
Well, Mike, I'm sorry to hear all the strife that you've gone through, but you've definitely come out on the other side. And now you're able to help people, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And I don't think any information you have in your head is useless. I think it all helps us, gives us the base for where we're going forward. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
So tell me, if someone finds himself in an unfortunate situation, such as foreclosure or a short sale. I actually have the SFR designation, short sale and foreclosure resource, but I've only done a little bit with that. You obviously have all the experience, but what should someone do if they think they're close to foreclosure? I mean, they need to give you a call, obviously, but how can you help them? How can you help them save their home?
Sure. So the reality is, the human condition is at play here because a lot of people who go through this have a year or 2 years of unopened mail sitting on their dining room table, in
Goodness.
which was the invitation for a solution, right? But the human condition is at play. And what we don't believe is that the very entity that is threatening our housing is the one that can help us. And that's the
The
reality.
bank's on your books, quite frankly.
I'm sorry.
The bank does not want the house back on their books. They'd rather save it if they can, I think.
It's an inalienable truth in America is there is not a single bank in America that wants to foreclose, and there isn't a single homeowner in America that wants to be foreclosed on. And the reality is we just have to bring them both together. And so that's the work that we typically do is we help people begin communications with their bank, craft outstanding applications for assistance that help the bank see the homeowner, the debtor, as a viable bet, somebody who will be able to resume their normal payments if they could just get a hand on and a hand dealing with the arrearage, the past due balance. The fact of the matter is that today, in today's day and age, there are very few short sale candidates in America. The unreasonable and ridiculous appreciation of home values over the last 5 years, which really isn't real. 43% increase in values pretty much across the board in 5 years is crazy. And so because it's really never happened to me in my career, and I'm not recommending this, but you can literally not pay your mortgage for 2 or 3 years and sell your house and walk away with a bag. And that has never happened in the history of real estate. Typically, when you fall behind on your mortgage, you can't then a year, 2 or 3 years later, sell your property and get a significant amount of money. So there's really, I don't know, we might have done 2 short sales last year, maybe. They're just rare. There's still some, believe it or not, some of the shadow inventory from the last downturn. We met a guy who hasn't paid his mortgage since 2009 and hasn't been foreclosed on. But those cases are, that's crazy. That would never happen to me. If I stopped paying my mortgage, they'd foreclose in a year, not 15.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very, very rare cases like that. But and he's obviously underwater. His payoff is 3 times what the original note was. So those cases are few and far between. Most people have plenty of equity in their property, even with the arrearage that's tacked up. But the goal is to not get them to move on from the property. The primary goal, I should say, the macro goal is avoid foreclosure at all costs. And then there are little micro goals on the way. And the first one primarily is people don't want to leave their home. They don't want their housing disrupted. They just don't know how to effectively craft an application that with their lender, with their servicer, to request assistance. And what we've learned, over the years is that if it's a federally backed loan, if it's a Ginnie or Fannie or Freddie or FHA product or VA product, these banks will give you multiple bites at the apple. They will really offer you every type of assistance under the sun in order for you to retain your property. Banks will assist with retention options and non-retention options. But these federally backed loans, there are 6 or 8 different programs that people can qualify for. And the fair bargain is the bank just says, look, we can help you with this past due balance. And the way that they typically help is housing and urban development gets involved. And so that's the best case scenario. It's called a partial claim mortgage. And what it means is that HUD pays the bank, the servicer, the past due arrearage, whatever it is, 20, 30, 50, $100,000, whatever that arrearage is. HUD will pay the bank, the servicer, that money, and they'll record a second mortgage, a silent second, in the name of HUD at 0% with no payments due. And you don't have to deal with that balance until one of 3 events. You refinance the property, you sell the property, or the maturity date of the original first primary note comes about. And those are the best scenarios where people
I've never heard of that. Yeah.
It's absolutely phenomenal. I would say that About 40% of the people that we work with qualify for that. And the fair bargain that the bank says is, look, okay, you can qualify for a partial claim. HUD pays that balance down and records a second, but we expect you to resume your normal payments in, like, let's say if we did that today, in 60 days or so, maybe they'd say April 1st, at best, maybe May 1st. You have to resume your normal payments. You keep your original note intact and you just follow suit. And of course, the reason that that's so attractive now is that so many people are sitting in these sub 3% mortgages. The value of hanging on to those terms, I really don't like loan modifications. Modifications of the note will bring it to today's interest rates. And that's not really helping anybody. If you're sitting in a 2.785% mortgage and you get modified at 7.25%, your payment's going up 80%, 90, 100 plus percent. And that's not really assistance, and it's a timing thing. It's a timing thing. It does have a lot to do with if your loan is federally backed and sold out into the secondary market, which most homeowners don't even know if it is or not. But, and it's also a timing thing. The longer you've been behind, the less options are available to you. And so that's where the human condition comes in. And I have great empathy for it. I understand, when you know there's no good news in the envelope, it's a lot easier not to open it, and that's just the psyche at work.
And they probably get into a situation where they've missed a few payments and they just become overwhelmed. They don't know what to do or where to go or even who to ask.
Sure. What I've learned in this work and in my own life experience is that if you are behind on your mortgage, there is a better than average chance that you have other problems in your life that, frankly, are much larger in the grand scheme of things than a mortgage.
Right, right. So if someone finds themselves in this situation, the first step would be to talk to their lender?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Pick up the phone. Yeah, pick up the phone and call your lender. And that's what we do with people. The vast majority of my relationships start with a call to the bank with the consumer. They come in, we call the bank, and we simply explain. We understand we've fallen out of the good graces. We'd like to learn your assistance application process. Of course, for doing this for so long, we kind of, depending on the servicer, we know what the process is, right, and which application they use and all that kind of stuff. What supporting documentation needs to be provided, because that's the work we do. Is we craft these applications. We provide letters of explanation for anything that may need to be explained. It's what you're effectively doing when you're doing this is you're going through the underwriting process again. Just like when you bought the home, you went through an underwriting process, and when you're looking for assistance, the bank is doing the same thing, just sort of in reverse. They are essentially, it's almost like reapplying for the mortgage terms is what you're doing. And you're explaining what your hardship was, whether it was temporary in nature or permanent or et cetera. And then you are providing supporting documentation that's in line with your application, your finances, what are your monthly expenses, what's your gross or net monthly income, and then bank statements and sometimes tax returns, and it's not a forensic audit, but it's a light financial load of things that you need to provide to sort of prove your case, right? And where most people fail, I would say that about half of the people that we get in touch with have tried this process. They've tried to apply. They filled out an application, they sent it in, but maybe they didn't provide the supporting documentation in a timely manner, or maybe they provided some and not all of it. And, the big mistake that people make when they're trying to work with their lender on their own, and it's really not a fair fight, a big bank against the average American homeowner, they fail to recognize that it's not the bank's job to chase you, it's your job to chase the bank. And so what we do is every 3 business days, our team follows up with the bank and says, hey, we're just looking for a status update. You requested that we send you a letter of explanation for the deposits in the bank account over $500. We've sent that. Have you received it? No, we haven't. Okay, we're going to send it again. And that follow up and that staying in touch with the bank, because what's most crucial in this moment is every bank has they have a different name for it, various banks, but it's effectively getting the application to be certified complete in the eyes of the bank. Once that application is complete and they begin the review process, only at that point will they pause further foreclosure proceedings. They will pause their actions. And that creates the safety net for the consumer, where they're no longer at threat of the bank continuing down the processing, moving to schedule a foreclosure auction. And so that's what we aim to do, is get people a certified complete application, get them under review. And then once the review is complete, the bank will issue a results letter. And then we'll consult with the consumer about what the results are and what they mean and which option is best based on our opinion and experience, and help them choose the best one and move forward. And then stay on top of them, of course, letting them know when the first payments are due and that kind of thing, and reminding them, because it's that first 6 months or a year after you get assistance that it's so important not to be late, because once you're late, after you've already taken a bite at the apple, if it's in a short period of time, the bank tends to move a lot faster on their next closure proceeding.
I would think so. It would be overwhelming, I think, for the average person. So the fact that you're able to help people navigate this process is just, it's amazing. And you started this foundation or this nonprofit to help people not have to go through what you went through.
That's right. Sure.
Yeah.
Get a softer landing spot than what I did,
Yeah, some of the information that I received, it says in the first quarter of 2024, which was last year, there were 95,349, I believe, foreclosure filings, which was an increase of 3%.
Yeah,
that's
sure.
3% may not sound like a lot, but that's a lot.
Yeah, and it's on the rise again, unfortunately, year to date in 2025. There are about 125 notices of intent to foreclose recorded every week just in the state.
Oh my God.
Just in the state of Massachusetts. And now, in context, back in 2009, 2010, there were 750 a week.
Oh yeah, well,
so that
was after the crash. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not at tragic levels, but believe me, if you're the family, if you're one of those families,
tragic for you.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's time consuming. It takes up the vast majority of my time, but at this stage of my life, I'm consider myself pretty fortunate to be able to have the time to give back and try to help people hang on to great mortgage products. The cost of, just the really the psychological damage involved in humbling up to a place where you're living in a 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath colonial style home, and your mortgage payment is $1,800 a month. To go find replacement housing at $1,800 a month, if you're lucky, is going to be a 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartment.
Oh, absolutely. Rentals have gotten quite expensive.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Sure. Yeah, they are.
Especially for what you get. So can you help anyone in any state? I think you're from the Northeast, correct?
Yeah, we're from the Northeast, but we can do this anywhere. There's no bank that wants to foreclose. There's no homeowner that wants to foreclose. That's the reality of it.
I know every situation is different, but from the time you start working with someone to the time, and I'm sure you're not able to help everybody. You can help most people, though, I would think.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
How long is the process typically, just as an average?
Sure. So the biggest variable to that, right, is attentiveness of the homeowner. Are you providing us with what the bank is requesting in a timely fashion, right?
Yeah.
Because we can't do this without you, right? So we need proactive engagement on that end. But assuming that we have proactive engagement, I would say that an average from the time we first speak to the time of a results letter is 8 to 10 weeks.
Yeah.
8 to 10 weeks from the time we first speak to the time the bank issues a result is about 8 to 10 weeks. It takes the bank 30 days to review, and so it can take 4 weeks or more to get the application certified complete. And that is, look, I've done a million of these things, and every time I do one, I convince myself that it's complete, and they're not going to ask for anything more, and I'm wrong every time.
It's just like getting your first loan for your house. You've provided everything, but they want one more thing, one more thing.
Right. Or they didn't receive it, is tremendously common, and you're never speaking to the same representative.
That makes it more difficult.
It's one of the struggles, and even if we have good relationships with single points of contact and designated relationship managers, but they can't pick up someone else's file just because we know them and we have their direct number. And so they're always, it's always fluctuating in the banking industry, who's handling what. And so it's a moving target.
We should call you, and we're going to ask in a minute how to reach you. Yeah. But is there a situation where you know right away you're not able to help someone? I mean, or do you give it your all on every single situation?
Sure. So, well, let's see. If I'm being completely honest, right? There are people in the world, of course, who don't believe that they owe their bank this money, and it's a smaller segment of people, but there are people that we speak to every week who are determined to fight the validity of the mortgage and sue the bank and do all these things. And there's really nothing I can do with that. If that's the mindset, I'm not equipped to help them do that kind of thing. And I've yet to see someone successfully win such a battle, right? And so, yes. But denial comes into play here. Denial comes into play, and stubbornness, all the human conditions. We want to. Not just bury our head in the sand, but dispute the validity of it. And so people like that, I really can't, I can't do anything to change that mindset usually. But no, there's nobody that I meet that accepts the reality of the fact that they owe their bank money, that I can't be some help to. Nobody that I've met. As long as, if you accept the fact that, you borrowed this money to buy this house, you fell out of the good graces, nobody agrees with the fees, right? And I don't blame them, because the banks
have what it is.
I don't know what kind of calculator these banks use, but it's on steroids. And they, and once a bank takes action, they hire counsel. And when they hire counsel, they have no control over those fees. The attorney reports the fees for the foreclosure proceeding to the bank. They don't dispute them, but they pass those on to the consumer. And so, look, the longer this goes on, the longer you take no action, you're indecisive, the more you owe the bank. It may not feel like it because it's not coming out of your pocket today, but in the event that you are forced to sell in some fashion, it's just costing you money to wait.
Right. Well, is there a fee for your services, for your help?
There is not. No. This is true paying it forward. We are a nonprofit.
Wow.
We do not seek any money for this. If I'm being completely honest, helping people end up in a better place than I did continues to help me heal.
Well, I know you're a busy man because you're a broker of a real estate office. This is amazing what you do. Tell people, I'm hoping that there are a few people out there that need your help, but if there's someone out there listening that could use your help or your guidance, how would they reach you?
Sure. You can go to our site, learn all about my story and what we do. It's hardship.org. Or you can call me direct, 508-501-9214, and tell me your story.
We'll leave that contact information on the podcast as well, and this will be on YouTube as well. Is there anything you'd like to share? I try to keep this to 25, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to share that we haven't talked about?
Yeah, sure. There's no shame in struggle. There is no shame in struggle. The reality is
we've all needed help from one time or another.
Every one of us struggles in life, and it's a deterrent to help, to wallow in pity, shame, or guilt. There isn't any. Everyone falls behind something at some stage of their life. Struggle is not the whole story. It's just a chapter. But if anyone's guilty of making it the whole story, it's us, ourselves, by being indecisive and crippled by the uncertainty. And so that's where communicating with the lender starts to dissipate some of that uncertainty as you begin to gain a clearer vision of what's actually possible. And so, if I had any advice for anyone, don't let shame paralyze you from action.
So, and there's always someone ahead of you that's done this. So it's not, I don't believe in stupid questions. I don't believe you're the only one this has ever happened to. So don't be afraid to call Mike and ask for help or ask for advice. He's there. He's more than willing to advise and help. And having been there, unfortunately, Mike, having been there, you can certainly empathize with all these people.
No question. Absolutely 100%. So bring me the stories. I'll help sort them out for you.
Okay, give us your website one more time, please.
Sure, it's Hope, the number 4, Hardship. Hope, the number 4, Hardship.
Well, Michael, so thank you so much for what you do to help people. It's amazing, and I hope you get well, if there's someone out there listening that needs your help, I hope they call you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mike.
All right, bye-bye.
All right. Thank you for tuning in to the Real and Real Estate Podcast. I hope today's insights have inspired and empowered you. Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share the podcast with anyone who might benefit. Have questions or a topic you'd like us to explore? We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, stay informed, stay inspired, and keep moving towards success.